I do want to take a look forward to 2023 in terms of crypto. We're about a month in, and you wrote this. Mark Twain is famous for saying that history doesn't repeat, but it does often rhyme. The same can be said for crypto. Before we get into what you're seeing for the next year, I do want to take, a stroll down memory lane. And can you bring us up to speed from 2017 to 2022?
Sure. And yeah, thanks for the question. It's really funny. As I was kind of sitting down and writing sort of my primer for 2023 and what to expect, as you mentioned, it's always helpful to look back. And despite crypto's relatively short history, the Bitcoin white paper was only released 15 years ago, which actually is kind of amazing that it's been that long, but it's still relatively short. Um, it's been pretty cyclical, not just in market cycles, but just in how the technology, the ecosystem has developed, sort of surged up, came back down, then surged up a little higher and back down, and so on and so on and so forth. And there's been a number of big resets in crypto that have led to further development of the ecosystem. For instance, when Mt. Gox, and this is actually going to go all the way back to 2014, when Mt. Gox, which at that time was the biggest Bitcoin exchange in the world and at its peak handled 80% of all Bitcoin trading, collapsed. That led to the need for regulated and relatively compliant exchanges such as Coinbase and Kraken. Those were two that were founded around that time. Obviously, the collapse of FTX proves that we haven't quite met that bar completely yet, but that did show some of the development. And then in 2016, when the DAO was hacked, which was essentially a decentralized autonomous organization, sort of a decentralized venture capital pool on Ethereum, got hacked and actually created an existential threat to Ethereum. That led to the creation of DeFi, decentralized finance organizations, and a lot of the different tokens that we have here today. But to get to your question, I was kind of looking at this in 3 to 4 year cycles. In 2017, that was during the ICO surge. ICOs stand for initial coin offerings, pejoratively, because a lot were scams. They're seen as sort of like a junky digital IPO. But all the hype, all the euphoria about them led to Ethereum climbing, Bitcoin climbing up to that point almost $20,000, which was I think about a 75% increase year on year from where it started 2017. And that entire year was punctuated by the launch of Bitcoin futures contracts from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Exchange. And that was at that time seen as sort of Bitcoin coming of age, being accepted, because now institutions had a way to directionally bet on Bitcoin. Obviously, for people to follow prices closely, especially when it comes to derivatives, you can bet go long or you can short and bet that the price is going to go down. A lot of institutions finally saw a chance to directionally bet against Bitcoin. And I think just a lot of the steam from the ICO boom that was that basically probably was not quite earned all fell out. And in 2018, the market collapsed about 75%. 2019 was sort of like a muddling year where the industry was trying to kind of figure out where it was going to be. There was kind of a push and pull between, do we need purely decentralized and permissionless blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, or what's known as permission blockchains offered by projects like Hyperledger or Corda and plenty of others, where they offer more bespoke type functionalities and they're not open for anybody to participate. Only authorized users can join. But like the big note in 2019 was when Facebook launched what was then known as the Libra project, which was a stable coin, or designed to be a stable coin, that was going to be backed by a basket of currencies. And to be perfectly blunt, it scared the hell out of a lot of people, especially folks on Congress that weren't quite sure what to make of it and were afraid that they were about to lose their power to essentially operate monetary policy, institute monetary policy, which that, along with the legitimate use of weapons, are really two foundational roles of government. So it was kind of a middling year, and then we were kind of waiting for the next catalyst to figure out what was going to happen, where crypto was going to go next. 2020, everybody remembers, especially in the very beginning when COVID started to kind of really take hold, especially outside of China. Markets panicked. March 16th, Black Thursday, is a day that I think anyone in the financial world will remember, when just the markets completely crashed and Bitcoin fell to about $4,000. And there were some real questions about where the industry was going to go, because everybody was looking for liquidity. Everybody was trying to get the US dollar, and people were scared of COVID. Obviously, then we remember what happened next with trillions of dollars being injected into the global economy from the Fed and other central banks around the world. Led to a big run on risky assets, tech stocks, but obviously crypto and Bitcoin was kind of the perfect mix of all this, because it was sort of like a scarce source of digital value, which was beneficial in a world with cheap, free, easy money. Something that is more scarce, obviously, should have some increased value. And on top of that, people also saw it as a tech stock, so kind of traded at both. So it was turbocharged. Bitcoin ended up running up throughout the year and touched around $70,000 twice in 2021, once in April when Coinbase went public in the largest direct listing in history on NASDAQ, with a market cap of $86 billion. And then again in November of that year, when the first Bitcoin futures ETFs were approved by the SEC. And then, of course, we saw the climb down again from everything that happened in 2022 in crypto, the rising interest rates around the world, inflation in the US, the highest in decades. And then all of that obviously was punctuated by the string of spectacular failures and bankruptcies and collateral damage stemming from the Terra Luna crash to FTX to 3 Arrows Capital to now the Genesis Digital lending, filing for bankruptcy, BlockFi, and we're still trying to figure out all the collateral damage from there.